You're listening to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. Hey there, and welcome to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast Roundtable Edition. My name is Kevin, and joining me for the discussion is Chris and Robert.
Hey
guys.
Hello.
Well, we're running a special this month in that we're going to attempt to put a new episode out each week for the month of October. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. The funny thing is I listen to a lot of podcasts, and generally when a podcast says, we're determined to do this every week, you suddenly never hear from them again. And it's
but that won't happen.
It's a running joke in the podcast world, and they call it pod fading, but that's not going to happen because we already have lots of interviews in the can, and that's why we decided, hey, we're just going to get them out there and not make everybody wait. So be looking for that every week, month of October, each Monday in your iTunes inbox. If it is an inbox.
October Podfest.
October Podfest. That's what it is. All right, moving on. So we've got some news. We've got some episode recap from our last episode where we talked to Carl Saff about mastering, and then we'll get into your emails and your phone calls. So let's hit some news.
CD Baby.
CD Baby.
Music.
News.
All right, here's some headlines that have grabbed our attention since the last time we got together around the round table and discussed issues at hand. So here we go. SanDisk Corporation and 4 major record labels and retailers, Best Buy and Walmart, are hoping that albums sold on micro SD memory cards will at least provide an additional stream of sales. They're calling it slot music. Unlike when CDs were introduced and people had to buy new players, many people already have the ability to play slot music albums. Since many cell phones and multimedia players support micro SD cards, these new albums will come with a small USB dongle and let buyers use them with computers as well. Slot music albums will be sold on 1 gigabyte micro SD cards, which means they will be able to hold full album and related content as liner notes and cover art, and buyers will be able to use extra space on the cards to hold songs and photos from their own collections.
Get your dongles while they're hot.
Visitors to YouTube.com can buy songs from music videos they watch on the site by clicking on buttons that take them either to Amazon.com or Apple's iTunes Store. YouTube users will also be able to buy video games such as Electronic Arts' sci-fi game Spore through the Amazon link. Amazon and iTunes will share in the revenue with YouTube when users buy content through the partnership. And in everything I read, I did not see a specific launch date, but I'm sure more info will be coming soon. All right, and the last headline I have here is that Myspace launched its much-hyped Myspace Music. And Myspace Music launched on September 24th with the catalogs of all 4 major record labels as well as indie music distributors encompassed by Sony ATV. According to Myspace, the music service has already streamed 1 billion songs. One of the new features allowed users to create playlists of their favorite music, and downloads are also powered by Amazon MP3 Store. So what do you guys think of that?
On the first bit of news, the little cards where the albums come on,
Yeah.
I have just absolutely no interest in that. I'll either buy a CD, or if it's going to end up on my computer, I'll just download it on my computer. Right?
Yeah, the whole thing seems silly to me. I remember when I worked at Tower Records back in the day in college, when there was a Tower Records, they tried to release albums on mini disc, DAT, and some other digital tape format. And, you know, you've got all these digital formats next to a CD, and I was like, why on earth would somebody go buy a mini disc, which they have to go buy a mini disc player for, which actually don't sound as good as a CD, when they can just buy the CD, and they've got a CD player? It made no sense to me, and this is kind of one of those things to me.
You know,
it's like,
but maybe, like, I feel like, okay, it seems dumb, but if everybody's if everybody's on board, if these major record labels
If you
are,
get enough people to do dumb stuff.
I mean, okay, yeah, I don't want to be sticking like microchips into my telephone so I can listen to an album, but like maybe there's something really cool about it. Maybe is it like higher quality, or is it some new format? Can you watch videos on them too? Like, is there? It seems like if they're going to launch something this big, there's got to be something kind of cool about it.
I honestly don't see any benefit to it. One bit. I read several articles about it. I'm like, why? I mean, you're trying to convince somebody to buy something that they don't.
But why would these major record labels get on board then?
Because they're desperate for money. They're hoping that you'll walk in and go, "Oh, I don't have it on SD card."
It's going to catch on just like 8-track cassettes.
Okay, maybe they'll give them away in
I
boxes
don't know.
of
They
Cracker
could
Jacks.
put some extra content on there, but the thing is, with websites and all the media you can get online, there's really nothing that they can put there that you can't get elsewhere. That's going to make you want to go spend to buy the album again. That's the thing. It's like, okay, you can go buy an SD card and put all your MP3s on an SD card and then put it in your phone or whatever, your PDA if it has SD card. And plus, the other thing is they're really small and easy to lose. I mean, and damage. They're pretty easy to damage. So I just didn't understand, I'm sure they'll get some money from it, but the whole thing they've been trying to recreate all along is how every time they've upgraded formats up to the CD, people have gone and rebought albums, and it's been a windfall of cash for the mainstream record industry.
So the record companies want there to be a new
Yes.
format, whether it sucks or not, so
Exactly.
they
They
can
can
sell.
resell all
And that
that.
was their big push for like all the digital tapes and mini disc players, is they were trying to get people to buy a new format so they would have to go back and buy all the albums again, and they make money off their catalog again. But since CDs have hit, there's been no reason to go back and buy. I mean, people go back and buy downloads that, they may have had the CD or, they just on a whim buy it, but not like people did when tapes came out because it's convenient to have in your car. And then, CDs come out because it's much better quality. And so,
Yeah.
unless we're missing something. So
Maybe we're missing something, but pretty much we think it's going to tank.
it'll look nice on the shelf at Best Buy, though.
Yeah.
The other thing was, it's like they're going to give you a USB card reader. It's the reader for it. I'm like,
Yeah.
most people that are going to be interested in that are going to have that. So
Right.
Yeah. People are going to be like, you want me to put what in where?
And some of the articles I saw said they're also going to try flash drives, but it was just like a little side note, so I don't know how accurate that is. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have avid SD card users. Who knows?
After that ringing endorsement, I forgot what the other two bits of news were. Oh, YouTube and MySpace.
Yeah, YouTube. So, so apparently they're going to start. The article made it sound like it was happening, but then it was using the present tense and past tense. So it's not up yet, but who knows when it'll be out. They're going to make that available. And honestly, I think this could possibly be better than the MySpace Music launch. And that being that, we've always said on the podcast over and over again that videos are a promotional tool. When artists are trying to get it up on iTunes and stuff, you're not really... I've never seen anyone generate a bunch of money from selling videos that wasn't on a major label and through like iTunes.
Yeah, I mean, how many people out there in an audience actually regularly buy videos from iTunes? It's just not.
Yeah, especially when, one, you can get them for free. Two, watching video content when you only have like 3 minutes is kind of annoying. That's why I don't personally get into video podcasts, because they're also short because of the bandwidth, and downloading and everything. That it's like I don't want to keep having to change stuff for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. I'd rather just let something play. And iTunes right now doesn't have any sort of video playlisting that I'm aware of.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that's why MTV has video shows, because you can sit there and they just show you a whole bunch of stuff and keep you entertained.
Back up. MTV has video shows?
MTV4 does.
Oh, okay.
Now the MTV2 and 3
Right,
have moved on to
haven't-
real world.
Okay, I'm guilty as charged because I haven't watched MTV probably in like 5 years. So
Back in
I know
my
it
day,
still
MTV
exists.
played videos.
Headbangers Ball.
That M stands for music,
120
not
minutes.
reality shows.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that could be really the YouTube thing could be really beneficial because we have seen artists have a lot of success from videos they've placed on YouTube that for whatever reason people have found interesting and streamed and watched a lot. And having a link to the music, I think there would be a good usage of video. And go ahead.
Well, they're just launching it right now for major labels, and they'll probably start doing it for indie labels and stuff like that. But I mean, my thought is that there's sort of an opportunity to like really take advantage of like this whole copyright business that's been such a big deal on YouTube because these companies are always getting mad about having their videos or their content being used. Like if you can link over and then purchase, the music, like maybe a company wouldn't be so mad if you used their song, or a record label might not be so mad if you used their song in your video, but then there was a link to buy it like on the video, like a sort of like almost like a way of licensing music for use by advertising the music.
Yeah, I could see them not being as harsh on some people, but they're not going to let go that easy.
Yeah.
Do you know, like logistically speaking, who is doing this linking? Is it the account holder of the YouTube
I don't know.
account?
That's the thing. I was on YouTube today. I couldn't find any information about it. So they haven't really rolled it out. But MySpace Music launched. Yippee.
Whatever.
We're all excited. The funny thing is they had been talking about it forever, and this is actually like MySpace Music like 3.0 or something. They've tried a couple times, and I couldn't find out what exactly MySpace Music was supposed to be. Is this a store that I go buy MP3s, or what is it?
Well,
Music discovery site.
It's using Amazon, right?
Yeah. But this was when they were doing their press releases about MySpace Music. So the day it happens, they're like, MySpace Music is here. So I go to MySpace, and it's like, for more information about MySpace Music, click here. And I click there, and literally it took me to a page. It was just the most random MySpace layout ever. And I seriously could not find any information about it. What exactly is MySpace Music? And so they had like a couple artists featured, and I'm like, it didn't say anything about these artists. It just had their pictures, and I saw
Step it up, guys. Come on.
I found some article that referred to it as that it was kind of poking fun at the MySpace layout, and it was typical random MySpace fashion. But turns out MySpace Music is really, at this point, they're collecting money for the streams, and you can create playlists. So being able to create a playlist, if you're a big MySpace user, is probably a cool feature. You can put together playlists of artists you like, and then when you're on MySpace, you can play down that playlist. And they're kind of bragging that they've had 1 billion streams since its launch, and it's just been like 2 weeks, a week and a half, or whatever.
But they have probably that many streams.
Yeah, and that's
normally.
the thing. It's like they're bragging, but how many of that are people that have been streaming all along? It's just you weren't paying for it. And also, the other thing I thought is that when you go to a MySpace page, most people have it set so it automatically starts playing a song.
It's always going to stream.
A billion streams. I mean, the way their page is set up, it's like that's really not a billion listens. It depends on how they count that. So
yeah,
but it is interesting that they're trying to pay people for streams so they can get all the major label content on there, except they're not.
I think the whole Snowcap thing was kind of a disaster. That was the company they originally set up music with to try to sell music on MySpace, and it just didn't work out. But it seems like this effort has a lot more muscle behind it.
Yeah, and once they get it up there for all the indie artists, it'll be really, I think, helpful. I think indie artists will see probably better sales than they did through Snowcap. Everyone that I've ever talked to that's inside the industry was just shocked about how few sales happen through Snowcap.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of was surprised, but not really when I thought about it, because Snowcap is not a brand name that people know. Consumers don't know what Snowcap is. Artists do, that are trying to promote their music, but consumers don't. And when you're on MySpace, the last thing you want to do is put your credit card number into a place that you don't know who it is.
Yeah, with all these weird ads and women in bikinis trying to get you to click on them.
So
Give
now
me
that
your credit card.
now that they've got the Amazon name there and it's more something that they're behind, I think sales will be better. Whether or not it really generates a lot of sales, I'm still a bit skeptical. But it's an interesting step forward for MySpace.
Yeah.
All right, well let's move into our episode recap. So episode 34, we interviewed Carl Saff, mastering engineer in the Chicago area. And I thought it was very interesting. The whole historical background of mastering, I think, was very cool. But I think it's one of those things that artists overlook so much, and it totally affects your album. That getting it that in depth with it, if you're not working on an album right now, definitely come back to that interview when you are, because I know I've had some disappointing experiences with mastering. And Chris, you actually used Carl on your...
I did. My most recent album, which is not out yet, he literally just, within the last month, finished mastering it and did a great job. And he doesn't need any help drumming up business because he does such a good job. But I would totally recommend him. He, I took full advantage of his free revisions policy, which, I don't know, he totally was happy to do it. Didn't give me any attitude about it, and in the end I totally got what I wanted. So
very positive guy, and he loves helping artists, and it's a business, but he wants to make sure everyone's happy. I mean, that really came clear in his interview, and also that the number one way mastering engineers get work is by word of mouth, and so it's very important to preserve that. So I would definitely take what Carl said to heart and really know what you're looking for going in, have some ideas of albums that you like the sound of. And I think the one thing I kind of discovered by doing an independent album is how much that process can shape the sound of your album. And I would almost, nowadays, with the ability to do so much mixing on your own or just overdubs and things, I would almost spend more time or just as much time on the mastering process as the mixing process, just because, I don't know, you can get decent mixes, but I don't know, mastering makes such a huge difference.
I remember reading an interview with Spoon when their newest album came out, and what they were most excited about the whole album was how great the mastering job was, which is a really strange thing to hear.
Yeah.
Normally it's like, oh, we've written our best songs.
Well, mastering is such a sort of mysterious process. I mean, it's kind of weird to, especially for musicians starting out who haven't done an album, you're like, why, what is it? It's icing on the cake, but what kind of icing it is and why do you put it there, And it's good to hear from somebody who does it and, fairly eloquently actually explains why that process exists.
And how it's changed over time. I think that's important as well. I know when Small Town Post, when I was in that band and we were on a label, we were all involved with the recording process, obviously, and the mixing process, but it was, I don't even know who mastered those albums. It was like we were out on tour and they just sent us the mastered final, and it's like we weren't involved at all in it. I don't know. It's just it was kind of like this thing. Okay, whatever. It's just, they're getting it ready to be mass produced, and there's a lot that goes on there that can affect how it sounds.
When I recorded my first album, we basically were told by the studio guy that we needed to get it mastered. We didn't know what mastering was. He said, if you take it to this guy, it's $100. And we're like, okay. And we took it to him. He gave us the mastered CD back, and we're like, it sounds about the same.
No idea what he did.
No idea what he did.
Well, that's exactly the experience I had. I think I talked about it on episode 1, our very first episode, where we talked about our mistakes stories. I think it's in there, where an indie project I did here in town, the whole time the engineer was just kind of like trash talking this other mastering person I was considering using, who that's all they did. And he's like, yeah, I can do it for the same price. And I didn't really know the difference, And I gave it to him and paid, I think, $300. I don't think he did a thing, It didn't sound it sounded exactly the same. All he did was lay it out in Pro Tools, and that's not mastering software, And just kind of hand him, here you go. And I really didn't get a chance to listen to it. And I realized I got ripped off.
Yeah.
That was
Bummer.
not a mastering job. And so yeah, definitely, check out albums that you've heard that you like the sound. Chances are the mastering engineer had a big part of that. Both indie and, stuff you see on labels, because mastering engineers don't charge a ton of money, even for bigger projects. I mean, it's not as involved as the whole recording process. So that mastering engineer that you have, has done a bunch of albums that you absolutely love, he may be affordable. So
Another thing I was going to say, one last consideration to make when you're choosing who you want to master your album, and I've done it both ways. I've hired a mastering engineer who goes into, basically rents out a $1 million mastering studio or something for the day, and you can go in there and sit with him while he does it. And that's nice because you get to say, well, that sounds a little bright to me. Can you whatever adjustments you want to make, you're in the room with the guy. The bad part is that when it's done, you've paid for the day, and you're not going to get to make any revisions unless you want to fork over a bunch of money again.
Yeah.
Versus the Carl way, where it's mostly done over the internet, email correspondence back and forth, and he does revisions, but it's a little tougher to pin down exactly what you want changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like you could almost, if you weren't really familiar with the mastering process, you could actually end up tripping things up a little bit by being there and sort of, offering input that you're not sure about and sort of things going in the wrong direction or something.
Right. And then you've only got yourself to blame for too
That's
many
what I'd be
cooks in the
worried about.
kitchen
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I think if you've got a mastering engineer with a reputation, being in the room with them, at some point I would listen to their opinion and say, yeah, well, he's saying this is going to do the job, then I'll go with it. But yeah, there's a, paying for that room and all that. Most people listen to music in their car a lot, so it's easy to burn a CD and run out to your car and hear how it sounds. But, it helps to have some time to sit with it and listen for a while.
And make sure your mastering engineer is not stoned while he's doing it.
Really? That's a bad idea? Huh. Never,
For some reason, it just seems
never
to
would have
affect how
thought of
people
that.
hear. I don't know.
I'm going to write that down. All right, well, it is time for some listener feedback. So we just have a couple calls this time. Definitely worth the listen. So here we go.
CD Baby Podcast.
Message line
206-426-5683.
The number you have dialed
206-426-5683.
Hi, this is Jan Randall, and I want to share my story about how I goofed and learned a lesson. It has to do with my new CD, Good Fair World, which I've just listed on CD Baby and with iTunes and all of that. So I'm really excited. I'm starting a world tour, and I'm going to be at the Mint in LA on October the 1st, and a number of other places. So I've found this catalog that has all the radio stations, emails, and contact info. And I carefully prepared a press release and made it out as a PDF. And then I typed personal messages to each one of these station managers and music directors, and attached the PDF of my tour information to this email, which I mailed out individually to we're talking about 80 or 90 emails. And I spent a couple of days on this. And then I got one back, and the message said, Dear Jan, happy about your tour, glad about your info. Here's a little advice for you. Please attach the info on your tour as plain text, because many people don't like to open attachments from people they don't know, which means all of those emails, many of them, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of this because I'm on a Macintosh. I don't worry about viruses. I'm like one of the guys in the ad. And I've never thought about it. I open all my attachments. But of course, there are most of the people out there, many at least, would not open a PDF or any kind of attachment, which means this. I have now resent all of those out as plain text, and hopefully these people will now read what I'm trying to get to them. So that's my little tidbit of life's lessons, not too hard learned, but not too bad. And this is Jan Randall, and it's been great sharing this with you all.
Hey, it's Aubrey Nicole on CD Baby. I'm an artist, of course, and I'm going to tell you my biggest goof up. It was when I was recording in my in-home studio, naked, and the cable man walked in and saw me singing. It was the most embarrassing thing ever, so I want everyone listening to remember you're only supposed to sing naked in the shower. And remember, if you had the cable man coming that day, keep your clothes on.
Or lock the door. How did he get in?
Well, the only thing I could figure is that she's probably at an apartment building.
Yeah, that's true.
And she probably knew the cable guy was going to be making the rounds or something and just forgot about I don't know. There wasn't more to the story, but we have a whole naked theme going with our feedback.
Yeah, little do our listeners know that we are all naked today.
But the best advice I think that we've heard on the podcast this far, keep your clothes on. So that was a very entertaining story. And then I thought Jan, he had good advice that you definitely want to send your emails out in plain text, because I know not just from a virus standpoint, but just from a convenience standpoint, a lot of people won't take the time to open your attachments.
And there's a stronger likelihood that they'll get marked as spam and actually never even make it to the inbox of the person that you're sending it to.
And similarly, if you want to send your music to someone, people rarely like to get attachments of MP3s. Just send them a link to Myspace or your website or someplace where you've got them easily streamable.
And the fewer links and stuff like that possible. I mean, people don't want to click on 10 different links in your email, and also the more links you put in there, the more likely it gets marked as spam. So.
Yeah, and I don't personally like having just random files downloaded to my computer, because I can go find it and listen to it, where it's just easier, give me a link or put it in text, because I don't want a PDF either, when someone's sending me something. If it's somebody, that I know is sending me something in PDF form, that's fine. But generally, if it's just information, leave it as text. That's good advice from Jan, and he spent all that time writing personal emails to 80 or 90 people.
His intentions were right to personalize those emails. That's genius.
Right. So we've got a couple emails. This email is from Yu Jin. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Maybe not. Here it goes. In 2006, we toured in Beijing and Shanghai. I'm the keyboard player, originally from China, and together with a booker, we organized to play 7 shows, including one at the MIDI Music Festival in Beijing. A lot of press, also international press and bands participated. But don't trust the Chinese authorities, he says, in capital letters.
Wow.
It was good weather for months until the government stopped this on purpose. You might have heard about what Chinese can do to stop rain during the Olympics. They changed the weather. Chinese weather specialists used chemicals to engineer Beijing's heaviest rainfall of the year, helping to relieve drought and rinse dust from China's capital. Though unusual in many parts of the world, China has been tinkering with artificial rainmaking for decades, using it frequently in the drought-plagued north. So who cares, I hear you think? Well, the MIDI Music Festival in Beijing, with 20,000 audience members per day, had all the bands playing on a major stage without any roof. Always bring your own gigantic umbrella when you play festivals in Beijing. They will tell you it never rains over there, especially in the summer, but don't believe anything they tell you. Making electronic rock music on a stage and rain falling on your equipment, not a good combination.
Oh, man.
Wow. That's great. It involved tragic music festivals, political conspiracies.
Controlling of Mother Nature.
Wow, yeah, that's quite a story.
I don't know if I want chemical rain washing the dust off of my city streets.
No, it might be a good band name, though. Chemical Rain.
I'm getting the MySpace page right now, so don't try it.
I'll get the domain.
All right, here we have another one. This is by Mike. A few years ago, I ran across an ad that said, "We are looking for musicians to perform for our resort." I called them and set a date. It was a nudist resort, and they wanted us to play by the swimming pool on a nice, wonderful, sunny Florida afternoon. I called my music partner and said, Bill, I'll give you 3 guesses where we're going to play. And I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, he got it on the 3rd guess. When the gig came up, so to speak, we also brought along another musician friend, Dave. We set up our equipment near the pool, and one of the resort's personnel, I think is what he meant to say. One of the resort personnel came over to us and handed us all drink cards. Yes, a whole handful, so we can walk up to the cute little tiki bar and get free drinks. Myself and Bill were not real drinkers, so we gave our cards to Dave, who we found out later was an all-out charter member alcoholic.
Oh, no. Recipe for disaster.
So Bill and I were playing music by the pool while watching naked grandpas and naked grandmas and naked kids doing cartwheels in front of us. An hour goes by and Dave is already George Jones drunk. And he's going up to the nudist and saying things like, "Hi, my name is Dave. How's it hanging?"
Oh, no.
Needless to say, we were never asked to come back for a repeat performance.
Oh, shucks. I'm sure they bemoaned that invitation.
Man.
Well, that's going to bring us to the end of another show.
We have more in store for you. 4 episodes.
Yes, 4 episodes in October, and then you'll never hear from us again. No, but on a serious note, if you've been enjoying the show, it would help us out a lot if you just take a minute or two and go to iTunes and leave some positive feedback on our podcast page in the iTunes store. They actually use that information to dictate what gets featured. So it helps us promote the show and helps us set aside time here in our busy day at CD Baby to make sure we get these episodes done and the solid information, journalistic reporting.
Fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced for the indie music world. So, so if you could do that, that'd help out a lot. And see you next time.
You've been listening to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, USA.